God can be proved undeniably. It's something atheists and skeptics hear time and time again. Believers make extraordinary claims and regularly fail to meet the burden of proof they encounter. Hello, I'm the Skeptic. I watch videos on YouTube that make extraordinary claims, whether that's flat earth, strange conspiracies, or even the claim that a god is real, and then explain why I can't accept their position. In this God Squad video, we're taking a look into a god claim. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications of more videos, and smash the like button. There are some people on YouTube that say they have absolute proof that a god exists. Take, for example, Brian Harmsworth. With over 60,000 subscribers, Brian's luscious long locks have quite a following. Brian claims that he has undeniable proof of God's existence. In his video from December 2020, he speaks about emotional response as being equally important in decision-making about your conclusion on whether God does or doesn't exist as rationality. Really, Brian? Really? Let's take a look at his video.
A lot of atheists, for their part, will say things like, "Prove it to me. You're the one making extraordinary claims, so give me irrefutable, extraordinary evidence such that it would be almost impossible for me to deny the proof that you've provided."
It's strange that Brian would head his video with this. Yes, shouldn't every reason we reach a conclusion be backed up by irrefutable evidence?
And this, by the way, is a standard of evidence that far exceeds anything that the natural sciences ever have to demonstrate.
If there was ever any proof of anything outside of the natural world, then yes, we could accept it. But if you're saying that any evidence you would want to offer is outside of the natural world, and therefore unattainable, haven't you already given up? He then goes on to talk about how theists and atheists reach conclusions.
But if both were more honest with themselves, they'd have to admit that their reasons for believing or not believing have far less to do with rational inquiry than either would like to admit, just like a lot of the other motivations we find to make important decisions in our lives.
It sounds as though Brian thinks that atheists are denying believing things just because, due to an emotional response, which I'm sure many atheists would disagree with. I may not be speaking for every atheist when I say this, but rational inquiry, as Brian puts it, is the only way I reach conclusions. Sorry, Brian, just saying what you feel doesn't make it so.
Yes, we are rational beings with an intellect, but we are also emotional beings with passions. And it is those passions that tend to dominate far more of our decision-making process than most of us, especially the intellectual types among us, would care to admit.
But just because passion dominates, as he put it, is that still the best way to get to the truth? Can people be passionate about something and come to an incorrect conclusion? I think so. Brian then spends the next 5 or so minutes talking about politics, food and love, which doesn't really get to the point. In a 14-minute video, at the near 7-minute mark, he hasn't offered any undeniable proof of any god. Surely if proof was that obvious, you'd say it straight away.
The truth is, the difference between people who have a sincere belief in God and those who hide behind a rational facade is the difference between humility and pride, not reason and superstition.
So you're saying that pride is what keeps someone from accepting a god and not rationality? Come on, Brian. I'm proud to say I see no logical reason to accept that a god is real.
People who truly and sincerely, with integrity, believe in God usually do so because they've gone through some sort of an experience where they had to admit to themselves that they simply aren't smart enough to riddle out a theory of everything or the singularity behind all that is, which is what you would have to do to have God perfectly proven to you in a rational way. They experience enough of a twinge of humility that they can say something like, "God, I don't know if you're out there, but if you are, I think I would like to know you." And something like that traces my own experience with God.
Oh, here we go. Personal experience.
I said something like, "God, if you're out there, can you reveal yourself to me in a way that I will understand and be able to appreciate?" And he did. I experienced something very personal and very difficult to explain.
So just because you can't explain it, you decided it must be because of a god. I couldn't find a sandwich that I put down last week and I can't explain it. It must be because Jesus was hungry and ate it. See, I guess I can play too.
And I found countless perfectly sound arguments for reasons to believe in the existence of God.
Oh, here we go. 7 minutes and 50 seconds into Brian's video, we're about to get his undeniable proof. This is the moment I have been waiting 37 years for. Make it good, Brian.
And I routinely hear atheists say things like, oh, those arguments have been dealt with a long time ago. But then they don't seem to have the wherewithal to actually recite how it was that they were dealt with. There are responses, to be sure, but they're not definitive by any stretch. And those arguments, you may not find them convincing, but they are sound arguments.
Oh. So if you can't explain it, how did you reach the conclusion it was a god? Could it also have been aliens, ghosts, atmospheric pressure, invisible bugs, hallucinations? I could go on.
But still, that initial encounter for me was a very personal and subjective experience. It's not objective evidence or an argument, but it is a challenge, or maybe even something like a dare, to try it out for yourself.
So you're saying that your experience isn't undeniable proof of God, but something for people to try, and it may or may not work? Sorry, Brian, I think I'm done here. At almost 9 minutes into your 14-minute video, we've not had any offerings of a sound argument. Maybe we can check back in on you when you have something worth showing. Well, thank you for joining me on this video. Let me know in the section below if you'd like me to take a look at more extraordinary claims, and I can make a video on that too. As for this video being dealt with, we can give it a big skeptic. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. So from me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.